You're aware that a Negro family has moved into Levittown.
Yes, I heard about it.
What was your reaction?
Dynamite.
I'm gonna show you how great I am. We're not worthy.
I said, empty your mind.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that
woman. Ultra important, spectacular, phenomenal, incredible episode of Canceled Teachers Talk. Everything, anything, and all the things.
Yes.
And we are not going to do, I don't think we're doing a versus episode. I don't think that we're going to, I think it's going to be a good old-fashioned symposium question. Symposium episode. Yeah, we love our symposium episodes.
Do you want to give the background of the symposiums that we used to do?
Yes, so when we worked together in Dallas, we used to go across the street to the coffee shop in Oak Cliff in Bishop Arts, and we used to sit and have these conversations. And I didn't think they were next level. I thought they were just good conversations about whatever we felt like talking about, and they'd get deep. And obviously, I'd like to think that we're semi-intelligent individuals. So we'd bounce some ideas back and forth, and we'd include some other people, some other teachers, some other friends, and they'd throw in their thoughts. And we'd sit there for an hour, 2 hours before we had to go back to work. And we'd take these conversations to the next level. And people were like, you should record yourselves having these conversations. And that's kind of the inspiration for why we do this. The back and forth that we have was good. And like I said, I never thought that they were necessarily anything special. I just like having a conversation, and it's not very often that somebody comes along that has good ideas. And I thought this guy sitting across from me had good ideas. And I think that's the ideas when you have a mutual respect, and you guys can, and when you talk to somebody that has a next level mind, I think it just made me happy. It always made me happy to have those. Put a nice coffee in your hands. He drinks tea. He's a tea guy. I'm a coffee guy.
I've evolved, but yes, go ahead.
You've evolved.
It was kind of
out? Is it pinky out?
Pinky out, Roberto. Yes. I did a lot of tea. What else? I've evolved to now kind of what we talked about on our hot takes, where I don't mind a latte every so often. An iced latte.
So, and it's funny because here I thought tea was a higher evolution than coffee, because I don't know. I feel like coffee is
they're both foo-foo for sure. They're both foo-foo for sure.
You went latte, so you didn't really go coffee. You went like...
I still do the tea like 90% of the time,
Starbucks dessert. That's what...
Exactly, yeah. By the way, I had my first ever pumpkin spice.
Oh,
overrated.
Are you coming to the white side?
No, I tried it because a bunch of teachers brought it, took orders, and they wanted to surprise us, and they got us a bunch of pumpkin spice from Starbucks, and I was like, kind of over. It's just like a latte with cinnamon sprinkled on top. That's it.
Yeah, I love my pumpkin spice, but I am basic and white, I guess. All right, so
so let's get started, man. Go ahead.
Hey, well, see, like I said, the banter back and forth is next level. Our symposium, our big $1 million question, this week. I've always wanted to have this conversation just to see what you had to say. I've had this conversation with some other people because I feel strongly about this, and we've taught this in our class, but I don't get to see what you teach and how you feel about it because I'm doing my own thing at the same time. But what I would like to talk about, pick your brain, is what you think about the American dream. Do you think that it still exists? Is the American dream dead? Has it evolved? Has it mutated? Or is it a giant fabrication? Is it a lie?
Okay. Now, okay, I'll go ahead and start. Look, I think it's evolving, to be honest with you. I think there was a time in history where it was always about go to a country and you'll have the opportunity to find wealth and prosperity, or even to maybe not even wealth, but have your own little nice little corner of the American pie or your little slice, right? And what did that look like to most Americans? Having a house,
For most Americans, the good life meant working toward living the American dream.
Maybe a nice home in suburbia and some nice kids and a beer and a ball game on a Saturday afternoon.
And we'll have the living room right in here and the kitchen right here. And oh, darling, it's going to be just perfect.
The American dream. Owning a home.
Because in a well-built house with adequate leisure, they can live and work as better Americans.
And a car, or maybe two. And modern appliances that their grandparents had never known.
You can own your own home, complete with its own refrigerator, television set, and clothes dryer.
White picket fence, having a little family with one job that you're able to do, and, you know, with a dog in a nice little suburban area and a car. I think that is now done. I think it's now evolved to more of like, it's more about like freedom or happiness, maybe a little bit of balance in there. I think now it's more about self-being than having that physical, I guess, stuff, right? For lack of a better term, to looking successful or having the American dream. What do you think?
So I think that we have it wrong. I
Okay.
think that what you're talking about is the evolution.
Right.
I think if you go back, see, this is where we get it twisted. The original American dream, what made America great at the beginning, was that it was the land of opportunity. It was a place where people can come to have a chance. And that's the word, it's a chance. I don't think that this idea of the white picket fence, the house, the car, the family, I don't think that was the original what made people desire to come to America. I think the original American dream was just that. It was a chance to make something out of nothing, a chance for us for a reset, a chance for people that had no opportunities and no chance in life to come over and have an opportunity. You have, let's say, the Irish immigrants from the very beginning of American history who came over. They had nothing in Ireland. They had no prospects. They had no chance to have a successful life. So they came over, and it basically was their chance to maybe have some kind of semblance of success. And success for each individual and each group is different. That's why I think that we get the American dream wrong. You can't paint a picture of what the American dream is, because the American dream is going to be different for each and every group and each and every person. An immigrant that comes over from India is going to have a different idea of what they want and what this means than somebody who came over from Ireland in 1780. And I think that's where we've lost track. And I think that's why we hear the conversations, the American dream is dead, the American dream, it doesn't exist anymore, because we forgot what it originally meant.
Okay.
This whole
Is
idea
is that by design though? Are the powers that be, I guess, or the government, or the billionaires or the entertainers that have succumbed to corporatism or capitalism, have they gotten away from what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, to now creating like a utopia for those that have broken through, created their own version of the American dream where it's very exclusive to them, and while leaving everybody else out? Or is it more just what you're saying? So
I think the consumerism that we have in the modern world has altered our thinking. That's why I say we have forgotten. we have lost track. And yes, I do think that the big businesses and the people that you brought up have shifted our gaze and made us think what they want us to think. And I don't mean to speak like a conspiracy theorist, but that idea that we are not in control, I think is it's the truth. People go to school, people get their masters in marketing and get their masters in advertising because there's a science behind how to control somebody in that kind of way. And I think that is what has changed how we look at the American dream, or what we think we want, the white picket fence. When did the white picket fence become a desire?
Well, I think after World War II, I think that was the thing. I mean, we went over 10 years of hardcore depression. It wasn't just where there was a pocket of America suffering more than others. It was pretty much the entire country. Not only that, but it was also global as well, because even after that time during the Roaring 20s, as we were growing as a society, and other cultures and other races were able to be included on the success of America, when everything crashed on that famous Black Tuesday in October, I think what ended up happening was it was a combination of the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression happening all at once. So you're talking about a decade combining with the war. So when the war was finally over and there was prosperity to a certain point, I think that was kind of the birth of it. Like, when can we celebrate our success for now? Jobs are being created again, like in the 20s after World War II. The Korean War that would happen in the early 50s, which was very devastating. It didn't really alter the lifestyle of those that were successful or trying to break through at the time in the 1950s. I think that's where that idea comes from. And for most people, you talk about how we kind of forgot what the original goal was. I think that idea of the dream kind of sustained even today. People today, with the debts and the inflation and all that stuff, they want that from when the 1950s, almost 70 years earlier. They want that dream. And right now it feels like the dream is separating from now just being part of an inclusive group versus the rest of America. And let's not forget, in 1950s, was it beneficial for, not to be offensive, but white people? White people had better opportunity, of course. But there are a lot of cultures, African-American culture, the Mexican culture, the Asian culture here in America, they were still struggling. They were still, drinking out of separate water fountains or going to different restrooms. So while some people were enjoying a big piece of the apple pie, a lot of other races, even at peak prosperity, were struggling. So that's kind of where I think it's going, or where it went. Sorry.
So I brought up this idea that the American dream is different for each group.
Mm-hmm.
But I also am a firm believer that history is written by the victor. So this idea, you brought up a good idea of the white people, and I don't want to spin out of control into a racial rant, but there's a big conversation there. Did the American dream change after World War II to fit the narrative that the people in charge wanted? And the white picket fence, I mean, could black people have a white picket fence? So why is the American dream the white picket fence?
You're aware that a Negro family has moved into Levittown?
Yes, I heard about it.
What was your reaction?
Dynamite. Dynamite.
What have you done about it?
Well, I guess we just discussed it.
How do you feel about the Myers moving in?
Well, I'm very definitely against it.
Before coming to Levittown, did you have any contact with Negroes?
Well, when I came from a small town where we didn't have any colored people. And at that time I had no feelings either way. But while we were waiting for our house to be built, we lived in Trenton for 9 months. And, that was my first contact with them, both in work and going through colored sections to work. And I was very happy I was moving into an all-white community.
Immigrants that come over, I mean, do they want this? Do they want that token, that stereotypical American dream, or is that just something that the people that were in charge, the people that had the power and the ability, is that just something that they created because that's what fit their version of American dream?
I will say this too. Look, I think what ended up happening for immigrants, there's a good argument. There's a discussion going on even to today. Do immigrants cherish the American dream? Do they inspire to achieve it more than a generational American? Have the American people gotten lazy to where they kind of take the American dream for granted, versus an immigrant that have struggled their entire lives, come from a third world country, or they're facing oppression or violence, and they come to America, right? Even back when the Irish people and the Italians and a lot of Eastern European people coming to America over 100 years ago, that's kind of been the goal. It wasn't really, let's get a white picket fence. Let's go there to seek that freedom that I was talking about, where it was evolution, and we can build something there. I mean, I think for immigrants, because, I live on the border of Texas and Mexico. I've seen in my entire life, they just want to come and, for the most part, and contribute. They want to give back. They want to build something that not only their family can grow in, but give back as well. I think that's where a lot of the big miscommunication is coming from. So I want to kind of like change the question a little bit. Do you think the immigrants are cherishing the American dream, and do you think Americans are getting, lazy about it or taking it for granted?
Actually, I think when you go back, and I think I tried to give you the answer to that earlier. I think the immigrants are the only people that truly grasp the American dream.
Okay.
How I feel the American dream is originally supposed to be this idea of opportunity, this idea of making something out of nothing. We work, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of argument. When we talk about that, what is the group that is most likely to fill that narrative? And that is immigrants. They come over, and if they work hard enough, if they put in the work, they could make something that they would not have been able to create in their home country. That is why they come, for education, for work, to better provide for their family. That is what I think the American dream is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be a chance for something better. You look at the Pilgrims, you look at the Puritans, you look at any of the original groups that came over.
What they were
that's why
that's
why they came. They came for a better life, and that's what I think it is. When you bring it all the way back to the original skeleton of what I think it's supposed to be. They're coming for a better life. And Americans, the people that have been here, us, I feel like we do take that for granted, because we don't know what an inferior or a lesser life is. When you're born and raised in America, and this is all you know, I think that the Ferrari, the Lamborghini, the house on the ocean, oceanfront property kind of thing, that is what we see as the American dream. Very materialistic, like you brought up earlier, the narrative that big business and the people in charge want us to follow, because there's wealth involved, and when there's wealth
Mm-hmm.
and you have money, the 1% control that idea. They control how that flows. But immigrants, they're not coming over and they're like, I'm going to drive a Ferrari. That's not their intentions. They're coming over because, hey, they have a family, and their family's going to have a better chance to set something up for future generations here, as opposed to in Guam. I guess Guam is the United States. That was a horrible example.
I've been to Guam, actually.
I know, I'm jealous.
I know. Well, look, I want to go to continue this conversation. I want to go back to what I started with. Are we taking it for granted? Is that by design, though? Are the powers that be, are they designing the generational Americans that have been here for, multi 3, 4, 5 generations already? I don't think it's them being lazy. I kind of feel like over the past couple of decades, what we've been, especially with social media and other outlets like that, media changing completely, where now it's not really about the truth on the news anymore. It's more about just being political. What side are you on? I kind of feel like we are becoming, puppeted to believe certain things, and it's working. I remember, did you ever watch that movie? Which one? What was it called? The guy that played Two-Face. Thank You for Smoking. Did you ever watch that movie?
Yes, I saw that one.
And how they kind of get in a room and they figure out, okay, we need to promote this because the American psyche will adjust to that. Like, I feel like that is what's happening. I think there's manipulation going on into what we feel like the American dream is, or who we're letting get away with trying to control us to think a certain way to keep us more oppressed or forgiving for those that are taking advantage of those of a lower tier, where they cannot break through and they cannot achieve a piece of the American dream. That's kind of a wild take I have. What do you think?
I don't disagree. I have a different hot take. I have a different take on this idea, and mine is that we're not necessarily. I don't think that we're taught the American dream in terms of the actual story. I think we're taught not to question it. I think we're taught to just believe wholeheartedly in the idea, because that's the American spirit. And if you question the American spirit, then you're questioning what makes America great. I think there's just a negative connotation that we have if we put down or we think negatively about anything American, then it's frowned upon. And there are entire groups that when you go the wrong direction, that you're un-American. If you're un-American, especially in 2025, you're putting a target on your back. So I think we're taught and we're forced to not question these ideas, and whether or not, like you said, are they true? Are they fabrication? Are they being controlled by people, the 1%? I think that's my hot take.
So, okay, I see where you're getting at. I want to talk about what the elephant in the room. We're talking about white picket fence and financial prosperity.
Normally it was defined to me when I was a little girl. Big house, white picket fence, big family. Now it's just trying to get a job.
To me, the American dream is being able to work for what you want, to enjoy your job, and to have a content life.
Well, definition has changed for me over the years. I guess at this stage, the American dream is probably just to be able to have your loved ones intact, your family. Not be able to sweat about just putting a roof over your head and food on the table. Like I said, the material things are pretty much gone. There used to be the house and the cars and all that stuff, but for me, this stage that's the American dream, is just to be able to put my, the kids in college, and provide some stability.
What percentage would you say is based on financial prosperity, is being part of the American dream? Because after all, we do live in a capitalist society, and we're now trying, well, at least some people see the disparity of what capitalism has done to not only our economy, but to the people that are trying to, hey, they want a piece of that American pie as well, but it's getting more complicated. So where would you follow? Well, like, what percentage would you say is more based on finance than anything else?
I think in today's world,
because
I would go
it's what's happening.
I would go an extremely high number. I'd go, let's say 90%.
I agree. Actually, I was thinking 95%. So
I think that when we talk about the American dream in 2025, it is very materialistic. It is very much wealth based.
That is capitalism. I mean, that is what a corporatist union looks like.
My question is the American dream based on capitalism? Remember, when the Pilgrims and the Puritans came over, capitalism wasn't here.
Right.
So that's something that has evolved afterwards.
There is a big fear of, if we step away from capitalism, or if socialism dips your hand into a capitalist society, which, by the way, there's many, many government programs based on socialism anyways, right? That America will lose its identity just because there are some regions that are more prone to socialist programs than others. Do you follow along that line as well? And does that hurt America? That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
I agree about the ideas that were meant to follow along those lines. And I do think that Americans are afraid of deviating from the agenda. I think that, it goes back to the whole communism democracy conversation. And it goes back to socialism versus capitalism. I don't feel like it has to be black and white. We used to think that we could not exist in a society where communism and democracy were together. That was the whole idea, is that only one could survive. That if, in terms of World War I and World War II and, the Cold War, all that stuff, our Red Scare era, that
containment.
Yes, we couldn't exist in a world that deviated from our path. Because if we did, then we would cease to exist. So we fought against all forms of the contrary.
Imagine living in a time where suspicion and fear ruled the land. It was the 1950s in America, and the Red Scare was in full swing. The government launched a political campaign against suspected communists, and anyone could be a target. In this tense atmosphere, Senator Joseph McCarthy rose to power. He claimed to possess a list of names of people he believed were disloyal to the country.
But if you look at today's world, there are places that are a mixture. Look at China. We know China's a communist society. They've been a communist society for a long time. But because the 80s, the 90s, us making everything in China, everything's made in China, they're very capitalistic. Their people are very capitalistic. Their people crave the same things that we do, but yet they're still a communist society. So you theoretically have capitalism and communism in the same place. So why are we so afraid of deviating from the ideas? Like, why is it an issue?
I think because, especially nowadays, we're seeing the separation. Zohran Mamdani from New York City, he's probably going to win the mayor of New York.
Mayoral candidate.
And he's a hardcore socialist, right? They asked him, I remember I saw an interview, they asked him, does capitalism work? And he just straight up said no.
When people say democratic socialist, right? And I'm curious what you think this means. I mean, do you like capitalism?
No, I have many critiques of capitalism. And I think ultimately the definition for me of why I call myself a democratic socialist is the words of Dr. King decades ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism. There must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country. And that's what I'm focused on, is dignity and taking on income inequality. And for too long, politicians have pretended that we're spectators to that crisis of affordability. We're actually actors, and we have the choice to exacerbate it, like Mayor Adams has done, or to respond to it and resolve it, like I'm planning to do.
Okay. So, for people who say that America was built on, and a lot of immigrants, and obviously you speak from an immigrant experience. I mean, you came as a young child, but you speak to a lot of people who came much more recently, that they come to America because they believe in capitalism. They believe that if they work hard and make a lot of money, that's part of the American dream. Do you think that's not part of the American dream?
I think the dream at its core is a dream for stability in one's life. And what you're saying, that you work hard enough and that you then reap the benefits, too many New Yorkers, and Americans for that matter, are working 8 hours and then still feeling like they haven't made enough money to keep living in the city they call home. And ultimately, what I'm focused on is making the city affordable for everyone, not to win an ideological argument, but to deliver on the mandate of this campaign.
No, gray area, no bantering of giving capitalism a little bit of credit. He just went to straight no. And he explains, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, he explains that, we've given the great experience of capitalism a try here in America. And yes, there was a time of prosperity, but what happened? Even going back to the Gilded Age, what happened when capitalism and laissez-faire was taking effect into our corporations back then, the factories and everything like that? It created a huge social distance between the rich and the poor. There wasn't even really a middle class. Here we are 140 years later, 50 years later, something like that, and we're starting to see it again. People are priced out. Now, if you have certain debt, like it's starting to feel like America has pivoted and they're trying to price out those of the middle class, a little bit higher than the middle class, a little bit lower than the middle class, with debts and college debt and everything like that, to where, and high interest rate on houses and cars and everything like that, to where it feels like you're getting suffocated. And I kind of feel like today with capitalism in America, I think the powers that be, they are trying to separate themselves to where, everybody else suffers. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You brought something up, and I never thought about this, and it popped in my head as you were talking about it. And you brought up that idea that the Gilded Age, laissez-faire, that era created giant gaps in wealth.
Yeah. There's the po' boys. Come on,
that's 100% true. But I want to add to that, because if you think about it, if you go back to the American dream, it's even if you think wealth is success, most of our kids, if you ask them, what is success? I used to ask, that was one of the questions I asked when I taught 11th grade. In your mind, what is success? So when you talk about the roaring 20s, that's what they're going to tell you. And they're going to tell you, to own a car, to own your own house, because these are poor kids from the inner city, so they think that's success. So what popped in my mind when you're bringing this wealth gap, the creation of this wealth gap, what popped in my mind was, we champion people that break the mold. One of the biggest issues, I think, with the American dream or capitalism or any of those conversations is that it's so hard to break your bubble, to get from one level to the next, one social structure, one fiscal structure to the next. I mean, if you're born in a poor family, it is extremely hard to become successful. That's the issue that a lot of our kids used to have is there's almost no way of getting out of the cycle. Now,
but is that by design though?
It is 100%, but that's
but
besides the point.
A huge capitalist would probably tell you, no, you just fell into the system. Which maybe there might be a little bit of truth to that, but at the same time,
we create the system.
You feel that pressure.
The system's created.
Look, like we taught in Oak Cliff, we taught in an undesired part of Oak Cliff in Dallas, right? It's well documented. Most of our students, I mean, how many homeless students did we have? And that were living alone. You know,
I have kids in McKinney that are homeless.
Same here. I'm from the border. You know what I'm saying? So I hear it all the time, and it's gotten to the point where it, like I've brought up on the first topic, is this part of the grand design to keep a certain races
majority
and even lower class tier where, you know, it could be any culture, any race, to keep them there. You know, I mean, look, I know the whole fentanyl crisis and all that stuff that's been on the news the past 4 to 5 years. In my opinion, that's American made. Okay, that goes back to the 1980s of Ronald Reagan and the Just Say No program.
Say yes to your life, and when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
I remember going to school and we had lunch bags that were white and it had a stamp on it in red that said just say no. And it was just mass manipulation. America created in the 80s an addictive society. And in my opinion, it's starting to feel like it was designed to happen so that certain races and certain economic classes stay there in the status quo, and the odds of breaking through are very slim to none. And those that do break through, they're considered not so much the outliers, but the example to where, like, yes, you can do it too, and to an extent, yes, you can break out as well. But man, for those that are still generational in poverty, that's part of the grand design, in my opinion. You look at redlining and redistricting and stuff like that. I mean, come on. So go ahead.
You stole what I was trying to say.
Damn it.
It's okay. I mean, that's great minds think alike.
That's what we did, debating.
Those people that break out of that break the cycle, the people that break out of this poverty line and can enter the higher wealth gaps, they change from generation to generation, but they are so revered. They are our heroes. And I mean, you can look at like the modern day YouTubers, the people that sit there on their computers and do basically nothing, and like Mr. Beast, who has billions of dollars. Everybody, all of our kids love these people. Why? Because they broke through. You look at when we were kids, the computer boom, the internet boom, the Mark Cubans, the Bill Gates. These guys were our heroes. Like if only I had come up with this idea before they did. And it's like these guys were regular, like they were regular guys, and then they just had a good idea. Next thing you know, they are ultra wealthy. Athletes, professional athletes. I mean, we look at these guys, they're making millions of dollars doing something that I wish I could do. We look at these people that have broken through in a way that we wish we could, and they are our heroes. Because I think a lot of it is that they got wealthy doing something that is realistic, something that the normal average person could do. I mean, we don't look at an astronaut and say, I can do that. Well, most of us don't. I'm sure there's people out there like, I could be an astronaut. But we can see athletes and we're like, man, hey, when I was 12 years old, I can hit the crap out of a baseball. I'm the next Shohei Ohtani. If only I was given a chance. And I was 6'2", and I was Asian,
and
I could throw 100 miles per hour. But at the end of the day, I think it's this idea that we are held in our place. The American dream today, because we are so financially minded, materialistic, and we don't really have control over that aspect of our lives as much as we think we do. Our money really isn't our money. Most of us live relatively paycheck to paycheck. We save money and we go spend it on something materialistic just to go back and start saving money again. The people that are smarter and they save long term, we look at them like, oh, they have figured it out. But for most common people, I bought a house. I just got a new car. I have 2 kids and I have a baby coming. I technically am living the American dream. But at the end of the day, if you look back at what the American dream originally was, am I really living the American dream? I mean, I have student loan debt. I owe money on my car. It's not technically mine. I took out a loan for my house. I mean, it looks like I have those things. I have the shiny white picket fence. I have my kids would look at me and say, I have the dream. I have exactly what they want. I have the house. I have the car. I live in a decent community. I'm supporting my family. But at the end of the day, none of it really is mine.
So let me ask you then, where are we heading? Because it feels like, in my opinion, that debt is now the American dream.
Oh, I've joked about that the other day. I live in the American dream.
How much debt do you currently have total?
Probably like 80,000 in student loans.
How about you? How much debt do you have?
I feel like maybe like 40,000. I don't know.
You just feel like is there? You're just like, I'm vibing.
Like I whatever I have from school is it. But I'm in grad school right now, so it's like a lot more now.
Are you adding to it currently?
Yeah.
But everything's student loans. No car payment, no credit card, nothing else.
Well, I lease my car, so I don't know how that works.
Oh, that's debt. They'll tell you.
Oh.
I mean,
I feel like it's fine.
What's the payment on the lease?
Like $500 a month.
This is a nice car. What is this car?
The Bronco.
Oh my goodness, the Bronco.
But look, like you said, I have college debt. I made a big old payment this summer, and it feels like nothing moved. I just feel like, I mean, I don't know. It just felt like, was that it? Like, did I just pay interest?
Yeah, I think
what's the whole point of this? It feels like today. Look, I remember as a kid, my brother told me this story. My brother saw a TikTok, and I was like, I remember that. And he told it to my dad, and my dad started laughing. I started laughing. My mom started laughing, and my brother goes, I saw a TikTok where housing was so cheap back then in the 80s and 90s that they used to give it away as a carnival trick. A free house, a free trailer. You throw the ring inside on top of the ring toss on the bottles, you win a brand new house, or a trailer home. And I remember that. I have memories of that. Like they would do like sweepstakes of winning a house or whatever. And they don't do that anymore. Like we've been indebted so much. We're the average middle, even higher income people. I think they're just broke. Where I work, I see teachers have Mercedes, Audis, these exotic cool cars, or these big old F-350 trucks. And I'm like, how in the hell are they making that kind of money on a teacher's salary? And it goes back to what you're saying. It's not really theirs. It's just all debt. I hear, and I hang out with these teachers, and 90% of the conversation besides schoolwork is, man, I got bills to pay. Oh my God, I couldn't go out. And when I tell them over the summer, I went to this country or whatever, they look at me like that is the furthest dream to ever leave the country ever. Like it's impossible. And I'm a single guy, so that's what I do my expense on. But it's like, where are we heading? The college debt, nobody can buy a house anymore. I think it's the highest it's ever been, where kids that get out of college just go back to their mom's house or dad's house or whatever. And
About 1 in 3 Americans between 18 and 34 years old live with their parents.
And while you may have heard more about this recently, this trend isn't new.
Between 2005 and 2015, the share just grew very steeply over this 10-year period. Since then, it's been fairly stable. There was an uptick, of course, during the pandemic. In the wake of the pandemic, those rates of parental co-residence are now about where they were right before. Part of the reason we see this escalation of young adults not leaving the nest or returning to the nest is this idea that it was harder and harder for them to weather shocks.
Nearly 30% of Gen Z said they would like to save, but don't make enough money. And roughly 2 in 5 millennials and Gen Z adults feel it's harder to build financial wealth now than when their parents were their age because of the economy.
And they live there to pay off the debt, and then like the incredibly high interest rate, a house that would cost $110,000 today is now worth $350 to $400. I mean, where are we going? Does it get better, or are we just heading to some kind of upper class and then everybody else is forgotten?
I think that might be the $1 million question. That might be the most
try half a trillion.
That might be the most powerful question of the day. Where are we heading? I think, it's very was it Gen Z millennial way of thinking. Yeah. I think we're heading away from a token idealistic American dream, what we think it is, and more towards something that's more individualistic, more freedom of choice. We have more people renting than buying houses than we've ever had before. We have more people living with their parents, like you said, until later in life than they ever had before. And those kind of things were always seen as you're not successful. You're living with your parents and you're 30 years old. That's not success. I mean, look at you. You must be a failure. But at the end of the day, like you said, if I lived with my parents and didn't have to pay bills, I could pay probably all my debt off in a year. So thinking of it in a financially minded way, like, why not? Having no debt in my mind is far more successful than not living with my parents. Not that I'm going to live with my parents. If my parents are listening to this podcast, I'm not moving in with you. That's not the goal. But at the end of the day, like I hear those conversations. My fiance's brother just moved out. Their last kid out of 3 kids just moved out, and he's 26 years old. My fiance lived with her parents until she was almost 30. Like they're a family that has stuck together, and her brother moved out and he had over $100,000 saved up. So that to me is the dream. Imagine having $100,000 in your pocket.
And so it is financial then for you.
No, it's the freedom of not being burdened.
Or is it the freedom of having finally burden? Yes, having options. Like a lot of millionaires, they say, it's not the money that makes me happy. It's the options that I have. And a lot of us can't relate to that idea because we're trying to break through. Some of us are okay with, I just want a house and a family and a car. That's it. I don't need no mansion or anything like that. I think that's where most of American society is. I want to go back to what you brought up, the whole kids thing. Having a family and stuff. The manosphere, Elon Musk, those kind of idiots, right?
The manosphere.
Totally detached from reality. Yeah, totally detached from reality. Elon Musk is having like 500 kids a year, seems like. His philosophy is we need more children. We need more kids. We need to start breeding more.
There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. It is, and yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world and think that the population is growing out of control. It's completely the opposite. Please look at the numbers. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my words.
Is this why you have so many children?
I'm trying to set a good example. Yeah. Gotta practice what I preach.
I won't ask you to predict how many more children you're going to have.
Because the human population is going down when in fact it's going up, right? We're already past the 8 trillion marker in the world. I mean, 8 trillion, 8 billion people marker in the world. And when I hear these manosphere people talk, they're talking in the lens of a capitalist billionaire ideology, in the sense where like people just need to have kids, right? But the problem is that this generation, I think we're at one of the all-time lowest in producing children. And it's not because they don't want to produce children. It's not because they want to be single their whole lives, or they just want to travel the world or whatever. It's because they simply can't afford it.
American households. According to a 2023 survey of Dinks, finance played a major role in their decision to not have children. More than a quarter of respondents said they simply aren't able to financially support a child at the moment.
When we advise clients about having children, we honestly don't even give them the full real details and the real numbers. It's one of those things, if you actually see the math of it all, it might make you decide to not have children.
It costs a family an estimated $310,605 to raise a child born in 2015 to age 18, adjusted for higher future inflation. And that doesn't even include the cost of college.
So if you look at inflation within the child care market, it surpasses general overall inflation within the economy.
Some couples are contemplating having children at the same time that they're still paying off student loans that they incurred when they were 18 to 22 years old.
The debts you're talking about that you're handling, I mean, you're teaching, you're coaching. I mean, how many hats are you wearing at that school, right?
Oh, I got way too much stuff going on. I wish
exactly,
and I've had these conversations. My goal would be to step back, not coach. I'm the team lead at my school, so I'm in charge of a whole department, and I'm still looking for to take on more responsibilities. I coach 2 sports, and was offered a third one. I coach at the high school level and the middle school level, so I'm coaching 2 different levels of sport. And I still write. I'm still a writer, so I'm looking to publish some more stuff. I make jack crap out of that, though. I don't know how you do it.
I'm a master marketer. But go ahead.
At the end of
I was going to promote my book, but I didn't want to get over.
Yes. At the end of the day, you're right. My goal would be to take a step back, and if I could take off some of those hats. Yes, I'm not going to lie. This man, shameless plug right now. This man.
Get your copy. You can get it on Amazon, soon to be coming out at Barnes and your local bookstore. So get your copy today.
This man always gave me crap about writing fiction. Here he comes out of nowhere and writes.
Dude, I just want you to write because I know you can do it.
I published. Mine's been on Amazon.
Yeah, I know.
2023.
All right.
So at the end of the day, anyway, at the end of the day, like, to be unburdened, not just financially, but by responsibility. What happened to this idea of leisure? Like, only the rich have leisure? Like, what happened to that should be our goal? The American dream, in my mind, is like, I want free time. I want to travel. Mm-hmm. I want to have the ability to go and see the world. That is the dream. Not even the American dream. That's just the dream.
The other day, not to cut you off, I apologize. The other day, I was with my teacher friends, and we were talking about what you do yesterday. And I was like, I told them, speaking of leisure, I go, man, I got home and I crashed out. I fell asleep. What do you think they told me after I told them that? You're so lucky. Yeah. They were like, I wish I could go to sleep. I wish I had some time. I had to go pick up kids. I had to go pay bills. I had to go to the local HEB and pay my light bill and so on. I mean, I get ridiculed for taking a nap. which,
That's the goal. That's
so
the dream.
that's your all's dream, to have families. I'm single, so if I have time, I'm going to do it. I just feel like what America is coming today, where it's going, 5 to 10 years, in my opinion, I think, especially with politics and the billionaires, look, Elon Musk is demanding that Tesla pays him out that 1 trillion. I know there's more to it than just that. Does he really need that? Imagine if these billionaires, like I know we've had this conversation on our hot takes before, if they gave proper taxes to them, then you wouldn't have to take 2 or 3 coaching jobs. People wouldn't have to be doing Uber or DoorDash deliveries to pay their bills. Things would be handled. Healthcare would be free. What percentage of your check goes to your kids' health and your wife and everything, and vice versa? That kind of stuff would be taken care of. But the billionaires, they're let off the hook. They're actually more than they're most of the billionaires and the 100 millionaires. They're taking subsidies from the government anyways. They're on welfare anyways. Why don't we, the lower class, ridicule them, but they get to ridicule us? The whole SNAP benefit thing that might happen at the end of the month. We're getting ridiculed for wanting SNAP benefits for some people. And it also feels like a crab theory. And this is why I say maybe this is a grand design, because now it's like crabs in a bucket. We're pulling each other down, because now people that are middle class or maybe a little bit higher middle class are saying that those that are lower than them should not be on SNAP, that they're losers, that they're idiots, that, they deserve to be left behind. Like, why is America now being so seeping with hatred and red just for people trying to break through? And I think that's where we're going. I hope I'm wrong, but it just feels like that's the momentum.
I think if you're talking about 5-10 years from now, I think that the American dream is going to have a cultural shift. We're going to go through a cultural shift where we're going to move the idea from having more to being more fulfilled. The idea of being fulfilled. You look at stuff like mental health, you look at work-life balance, you look at purpose, you look at authenticity. I think that's going to become the new status quo.
Right.
I think when you fight
that goes back to that quote I told you, where it feels like it's less about wealth and property. It's more about freedom, happiness, and balance.
Yes.
It's does that feel like, though, we're just taking the L? Like we're just laying down to the powers that be? Like, hey, look, they're going to leave us behind. Let's just try to survive it. Because look, you're from Los Angeles, right? We lived in Dallas, a blue state and a red state. Homelessness. A lot of those people have jobs. They just can't afford the rent. I got kicked out of my apartment in Dallas because they wanted to build some kind of $2,500 a month apartment when I was paying a couple of $100 before. Remember? I lived with you for a little bit. Is 5 to 10 years from now, is it only going to expand where the middle class is shrinking a little bit more?
You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 92%. Listen to this. This is a statistic we recently saw. It came from the Federal Reserve. Over the last 30 years, the top 1% has seen a $21 trillion increase in their wealth. The bottom half of America has seen a $900 billion decline in their wealth.
So I'm going to go back to the question you asked. Are we taking the L? I don't see it that way. I see it as the status quo will always, not the status quo, the status quo will always be fluid. What we used to think was success won't always be that measure of success. Growing up, for whatever reason, we thought $100,000 a year was a sign of the wealthy. And I'll tell you right now, making $100,000 a year, I am not where I pictured $100,000 a year. I mean, so if it's always going to be fluid, can we ever truly win? Like, you go back to the original conversation, who is pulling the strings? And if the people pulling the strings are more wealthy and have more power than us, can we really ever truly win? And if you're fighting a losing battle, you can keep fighting, which most Americans will.
Mhm.
But your sign of success, I mean, you got to look at it like baseball. If you're a 300 hitter, you're an all-star. You're going to fail 70% of the time. Is baseball a loser sport? Is Ohtani the world's greatest loser? So I don't think it's taking an L. I think when you got to look at your successes in terms of the whole war, you got to look at the battles you win, and you got to stack those up against the battles you've lost, and you got to do your best to make sure the wins outnumber the losses. You're going to take losses in life. And if you're looking at the overall picture, I mean, mental health, like you said, purpose, balance, all that stuff, those are successes. And if we forget that those are signs of success, and we're only looking at what's financial or materialistic, then we've already lost. We have lost
Okay.
because we don't control those things. Because the world, the United States, what is materialistic today, what is a fad or a trend today will change. And then there's going to be something next year that we need. And then there's going to be something the year after.
I kind of feel like it's kind of history repeating itself. The 1950s, 1940s, 30s, and 20s, right? You know, when there was redlining, women couldn't even own a credit card until the 1970s. You know, it felt like those in that era, people of different races and gender, it feels like they're trying to recreate that. They're trying to make life more difficult. And who are they? Government and the billionaires, I would say. They're trying to make life more difficult to where they get the entire pie. And those that get a little sliver are the ones that broke through, and everybody else is left behind. And it's usually in a series of culture. Going back to Oak Cliff, right, where you and I taught at, you know, how many of our kids would come to our class like seemingly defeated by culture? How many kids of ours did we lose every year to crime and violence and going to prison and stuff like that? And it's directly correlated, in my opinion, and it's pretty much factual already, to where it's already designed that their neighborhoods keep them oppressed, that the state keeps them oppressed and only is prosperous for a selective few, or the very few that break through. And I feel like now in the next 5 to 10 years, the billionaires and the government is going to recreate variations of that, where it's now more about social status versus your health and your brain health and your life and balance and everything like that. Now I kind of feel like they're trying to manipulate how we live our lives and just taking the L. I kind of feel the opposite. I feel like we're compromising, that the only way we get success is now just by health only, which is a success, of course. But why can't we have a bigger part of just living sustainably versus struggling just for the minimum?
You're talking about an overhaul of the system. And for that to happen, people aren't willingly going to give up power. We know that. It's historical. So for the system to change, for us to be able to get a bigger piece of that pie, the people in charge are going to have to relinquish the power they have over the pie. And for that to happen, because nobody's going to give up power on their own, we are going to have to overhaul the system. In order for us to overhaul the system, then the system's going to have to be demolished and rebuilt. And we're going to have to remake the pie, but then somebody else is going to be in charge of the pie. Hopefully it's us. But at the end of the day, we're talking about revolution. We're talking about, so this is a whole nother conversation that we have on it. But
okay, and maybe that will be the next episode, right? Where is the economy shit?
But the economy is shit.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. I mean, I have like 30 more topics I wanted to bring up, but time is within the essence. So we'll go ahead and wrap it out. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
I plead with the people, these 9 people that listen to this podcast. I plead.
Will we break through eventually?
Yes, and then this number will change. We'll edit it. I plead with the people to remember what the fight is for. Remember what the ultimate goal is, and to not lose sight of that. Your priorities may shift and they may change as you get older or as things happen. But at the end of the day, to not forget your purpose, because everybody's American dream is different. Everybody's version is different. And as long as you keep working towards what you think that you deserve, I think that we've never truly taken the L.
Okay.
We might look at mental health as important for the everyday sustainability of our life, but at the end of the day, that is not my goal. Like, mental health will never be the goal. Never forget what the true goal is. Win the battles to win the war. What is your
goal? Okay. I'll leave this question for another episode. So,
because he was about to hit us with another 35-minute question.
Yeah. So let's just log off. All right, my man. For everybody watching out there, hopefully more than 9 people, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We love you guys very much. And every new episode, every Monday and Thursday. Have a good day.
I'm gonna show you how great I am. We're not worthy.
I said, empty your mind.
I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.